The Persian Gulf. 56 kilometers west of the Iranian coastline. The sea rolls gently under the morning sun. But beneath that calm surface, a geopolitical chessboard is shaking violently. The carrier strike group led by the USS Gerald R. Ford, the newest flagship of the U.S. Navy, accompanied by 3 escorting destroyers, is moving rapidly toward the Strait of Hormuz. This narrow passage carries nearly 20% of the world's oil supply every single day. Whenever an American carrier group appears here, it's not just a display of power. It's a political message. But this time, that message runs into a wall of steel. Because last night U.S. reconnaissance satellites detected something unusual along 24 kilometers of Iran's southern coastline. What appeared on the analysts' screens did not bring any reassurance. This is what makes this confrontation fundamentally different from previous ones in the Persian Gulf. Iran was not relying solely on aging Soviet-era equipment or weapons left over from before 1979. Despite Western sanctions, Tehran had quietly acquired new coastal artillery technology from 2 powerful partners. From China, the PCL-181, a truck-mounted 155mm artillery system capable of rapid movement and quick concealment. Beijing publicly denied any weapons transfer. But technical signatures rarely lie. From Russia, an integrated electronic fire control system that allows artillery batteries to share targeting data in real time and correct trajectories based on radar feedback. In fact, this networked artillery concept was refined during the war in Ukraine and quickly exported to friendly nations. 8 artillery batteries, each with 4 guns, had been carefully positioned inside reinforced concrete bunkers along hill ridges overlooking the Gulf. Natural terrain provided protection. Chinese-Russian technology provided range and precision. Each position was concealed using infrared camouflage nets, forcing U.S. satellites to spend 6 extra hours confirming their exact locations. But 6 hours was enough for American intelligence analysts to realize one thing. This was an ambush planned weeks in advance. For the previous 48 hours, Iranian crews had worked without rest. 155mm artillery shells, each weighing over 43 kilograms, were transported from underground depots to firing positions through narrow mountain paths barely wide enough for off-road vehicles. Gunners inspected elevation mechanisms and calibrated digital targeting computers. Forward observers climbed strategic high points carrying military binoculars and laser rangefinders. But the most frightening thing was not the number of weapons. It was the precision. Iranian artillery commanders spent 3 weeks calculating firing solutions for every distance between 20 and 50 kilometers. Wind data at multiple altitudes. Temperature changes throughout the day. Tidal current directions. Everything went into the calculations. This was not reckless firing. This was the plan of men who believed their math was perfect. But they were wrong about one number that would decide everything. At exactly 10:30 a.m., Iranian forward observers spotted the American ships through binoculars. An encrypted signal was sent back to command. 30 seconds later, the order came. Fire. All 32 artillery guns opened fire simultaneously. The explosions cracked through the morning sky like thunder. White smoke billowed from every position. The shells shot upward in steep parabolic arcs, climbing thousands of meters before beginning their descent. From a distance, it was both magnificent and terrifying. Behind each cannon, the crews began the reload sequence instantly. Muscular arms lifted shells, pushed them into the breech, locked the chamber. Countdown. 40 seconds later, second volley. Then the third. Within 10 minutes, more than 80 shells were in the air simultaneously, forming a moving steel curtain between the coastline and the American fleet. But here is what Iran did not know. The N/Spy-6 radar aboard the USS Gerald R. Ford, often called the all-seeing eye of the U.S. Navy, detected every artillery shell the moment it left the barrel. Computers analyzed trajectories and predicted impact points in less than 15 seconds. The results appeared on the command screen. Predicted impact point, 11 kilometers short of the lead ship. The U.S. fleet was positioned 56 kilometers from shore. Maximum effective range of the Iranian artillery, even with Chinese upgrades, was 41 kilometers under ideal conditions. Safety margin, nearly 15 kilometers. Rear Admiral Thomas Caldwell stared at the radar screen without changing expression. 20 years in the Navy had taught him exactly what he was looking at. He turned to the operations officer. "They're falling short by 11 kilometers. Record every firing coordinate. We'll need them." On the Iranian coast, the bombardment continued relentlessly. Massive columns of water erupted between the shore and the American fleet. Each shell impact sent waves dozens of meters high before collapsing back into the sea. Through binoculars, the ocean looked like a storm field rising from the depths. But none of the shells reached the ships. Iranian observers began reporting increasingly anxious updates. Every round was falling short. Not some. All. The Iranian artillery command post fell into organized chaos. Officers debated fiercely. Some blamed faulty weather data. Others blamed propellant quality. And some, painfully, began realizing the truth. The artillery's real range had been overestimated. Chinese technology was good, but not good enough to defy physics. The order came to adjust. Gun barrels elevated to maximum angle. Propellant charges increased to design limits. The next volleys flew higher. Farther. And still fell short, this time 8 kilometers from the lead ship. By 11 a.m., Iran had fired more than 200 shells in 30 minutes. Not one hit the target. Meanwhile, the Americans had waited long enough. 11:05 a.m. The USS Gerald R. Ford ordered aircraft launch. Four F/A-18E Super Hornet fighters shot off the deck using the MALS catapult system. Within 3 minutes they reached combat altitude. At the same moment, 3 escort destroyers turned toward the Iranian coast. Vertical launch system hatches opened. 16 Tomahawk Block V missiles roared skyward. Each carried a 450-kilogram warhead. They leveled out over the water and raced toward shore just meters above the waves. Flight time, 7 minutes. 7 minutes, enough for Iranian radar operators to see 16 fast-moving dots approaching. But not enough to stop them. 11:12 a.m. The first Tomahawk struck. Battery 3, Iran's most advanced position with Russian fire control technology, vanished in a flash. A chain reaction detonated its ammunition depot, sending a fireball hundreds of meters high. Then Battery 7. Battery 1. Battery 5. Every 20 to 30 seconds, another explosion. In the sky above, the F/A-18E Super Hornet fighters adjusted their attack runs. Their GBU-31 JDM bombs punched through reinforced bunkers before detonating inside. One last artillery battery tried firing desperately. 3 final shells left the barrels. Seconds later, 2 dams ended everything. By 11:30 a.m., the entire 24-kilometer Iranian coastline was silent except for smoke. 8 artillery batteries. 32 guns. Months of preparation. Gone. 12 p.m. 6 CH-53K King Stallion helicopters lifted off from the carrier. Inside were 24 U.S. Marines from a reconnaissance unit. Mission: land at Battery 8 and gather intelligence. They flew low above the waves. 12:20 p.m. Landing. Smoke still rose from destroyed artillery positions. Half the Marines established a defensive perimeter. The others moved inside the bunker complex. What they found answered months of intelligence questions. Firing tables printed in Persian, but using Chinese technical notation. Encrypted radios using Russian export communication protocols. Fragments of artillery shells marked by manufacturers the U.S. had tracked for years. 25 minutes later, the Marines boarded the helicopters again. 12:45 p.m., extraction complete. The entire confrontation lasted less than 3 hours. Iran. 8 artillery batteries destroyed. Coastal Command Center neutralized. Over 250 shells fired. 0 hits. United States. 3 sailors injured during evasive maneuvering. No ships damaged. But this story is not just about victory. It is about strategic miscalculation. Iran had better weapons. But better weapons do not always mean better strategy. They believed paper range equaled battlefield range. They forgot that in modern warfare, the side that knows more often defeats the side that shoots more. And China and Russia? They watched from afar. And took notes. By afternoon, the Persian Gulf returned to calm. Smoke columns slowly faded into the wind. The USS Gerald R. Ford carrier strike group continued its passage through the Strait of Hormuz, exactly on schedule. But in conference rooms in Tehran, Moscow, and Beijing, one question remained. What happens next time? When the distance is no longer 56 kilometers?